Hello and welcome to Unacademy IAS, a one-stop destination for all the English medium civil services aspirants. Finance Minister just now completed the budget speech for the year 26 and 2027. Let's try and look at some of the very important announcements. The first one, 16th Finance Commission recommendations have been accepted and the report has been tabled. The 15th Finance Commission recommendations are applicable till 2026, and from 26 to 31 it will be the recommendations of the 16th FC. And the government of India earlier had set up a committee which was headed by, or the commission which was headed by Mr. Arvind Panigaria. Report has been submitted, accepted. The committee or the commission has recommended continuation of the same vertical devolution of 41%. In addition to this, the commission also generally recommends providing grants on certain principles, which is one of the terms of reference given to the commission. According to the commission's recommendation, the government of India for this, that is the upcoming financial year, has allocated 1.4 lakh crore rupees. Second one, regarding the buyback of shares. Earlier, there were certain instances where the promoters used to be involved in the buyback of shares in order to get the advantage of a tax arbitrage, in order to ensure that they will end up paying very less amount of taxes. And that is the precise reason the government of India earlier had imposed a certain type of taxation whenever there is a buyback of shares. Now, in order to provide certain relief to smaller promoters, etc., the government of India simply stated the buyback of shares will be treated as capital gains. Will be treated as capital gains, and the tax rate that will be applicable will be 30%. But in order to ensure that some of the promoters will not be able to again manipulate the system, again pay lesser amount of taxes, in addition to the capital gains, they will also have to pay the tax, that is a buyback tax. They will have to pay an additional buyback tax. This is a second very important announcement. Third one, the securities transaction tax, which is imposed on buying, selling of the securities in the market. The government of India now has announced increase in the security transaction tax on the futures. That is essentially within the derivative market, there is F&O. On the futures, the S&T, the STT has been increased from 0.02% to 0.05%. And that is precisely the reason you have seen immediately after the budget presentation got over, the market has reacted, or market basically showcase that it is not happy with this particular decision, and most of the indices or most of the let's say instruments turned red in that particular case. Fourth one, minimum alternate tax. Minimum alternate tax. We have introduced a concept of a minimum alternate tax in order to ensure that the companies do not use manipulation in the system and end up paying very less amount or zero amount of income taxes. These companies generally are referred to as zero tax companies. And it was at the point or at the time of Mr. Rajiv Gandhi when this model of minimum corporate tax was introduced, which was later amended to make it as minimum alternate tax. Until now, minimum alternate tax rate of 15% was applicable. This now has been changed. This has been reduced to 14%. But before you become happy, before you rejoice, understand the other impact as well. Starting next year, the government of India simply says the credits that you used to get, because there is a type of calculation, right? There is a type of calculation where if you're paying more taxes compared to, let's say, the taxes on your final profits, some of the credits are given to you, that is MAT credits. Now, when you are getting MAT credits until now, these credits up to a certain extent will be allowed to be continued. But from the next year, right, basically the minimum alternate tax will be the main tax. No credits will be provided to the companies. That is the fourth very important announcement. Fifth very important announcement, which is applicable to all the taxpayers in India, income tax regime. The government of India last year had announced they would be setting up certain committees, or certain committees have already been established. Recommendations regarding the revision of the Income Tax Act of 1961 was submitted. In the last budget, that the bill was proposed, it was introduced, it has been passed. Now the government simply says, starting from the next financial year, the provisions of the new income tax are applicable. And one more very important statement that was given by the finance minister in the budget was, a lot of times the income tax act language is very ambiguous, very difficult for a common man to understand. Now the government of India has worked on it. The new income tax, the provisions are much more simple. The common man can understand them. And because of all of this, the filing of the taxes, right, and the forms which are associated with the filing of the taxes, etc., will be released very soon. And this is going to help the income taxpayers, right, basically file the income taxes much easier, and the common man will find it very easier to comply with the new provisions. That is the fifth very important announcement. Sixth one, regarding Gram Swaraj, Mahatma Gandhi Gram Swaraj initiative. Mahatma Gandhi Gram Swaraj initiative has been proposed. Under the Mahatma Gandhi Gram Swaraj initiative, or MG Swaraj initiative, the focus area will be Khadi industries. The focus area will be Khadi industries. The government basically says, in this area or under this initiative, we will try to provide training to the people involved in Khadi industries. We will promote production of the Khadi. We will promote even the exports of the Khadi to the global market. And this will also help in Government of India promoting the concept of one district, one product. There is an initiative Government of India, one district, one product, under which we are going to identify at least one product in all the districts in India, and will basically promote the production, export, provide assistance, etc. So this is a new initiative that has been announced by the Government of India. Seventh one, in the context of MSMEs, micro, small, medium enterprises. In the recent times, there has been a lot of disruption that has taken place in the global trade. And the MSMEs are hurt by a lot. These are majorly hurt because of these kind of disruption. Because when you talk about a larger company, they can easily work on their, right, let's say diversification strategies. They can get easy access to credit compared to the micro, small and medium enterprises. And whenever the disruption such as pandemic, such as tariff, such as, right, let's say a cutoff of imports are implemented, are brought into force, it is majorly the MSMEs which are hurt. Now, in order to provide protection to the MSMEs, in order to promote, right, let's say the functioning of the MSMEs, the Government of India, one has announced, have a look at this, one has announced equity support. It has announced an equity support under which the government will be setting up a fund, and the funds will be utilized. That is essentially 10,000 crore worth of funds will be set up, and these particular funds will be utilized to provide equity support to the MSMEs. The second important one is, there is already an initiative which is under implementation, Self-Reliant India. Self-Reliant India. Now the Government of India has announced additional funds to the Self-Reliant India, which was launched back in the year 2021. There is also a third one, very, very important one, a system which has been developed by Reserve Bank of India, TReDS platform, Trade Receivable E-Discounting System. The government now has made certain announcements in order to promote the TReDS platform. For example, CPSEs. The finance minister simply announced that all the CPSEs, that is the transactions associated with the CPSEs, now with the MSMEs will have to go through the TReDS platform, which will essentially make it much more attractive, which will promote and mainstream this particular, right, let's say TReDS platform. This is in the context of MSMEs. Eighth one, banking sector. Right, the banking sector. Banks in the past have played a very important role in India. How so? Lending to weaker sections, lending for infrastructure, etc. But please understand, for the next, right, let's say 2 decades, until we attain the idea of a Viksit Bharat, the banks will also play much more important role. For example, the Government of India has announced a National Infrastructure Pipeline, under which the government proposes a total investment of more than 110 lakh crore rupees. And if you want to attain this particular target of investment, yes, we need to attract foreign direct investment in India. In addition to that, we also need to ensure that the banking sector, along with the development finance institutions, will also provide lending for infrastructure. And that is where the government simply says banks will have to play a dominant role, important role, which will help in attaining the Viksit Bharat, let's say, target of the government by 2047. In order to do that, the finance minister has proposed a high level committee, which will study and give recommendations regarding changing the current system or the current structure of banking in India. The ninth one, public capital expenditure, public capex. This idea for public capital expenditure plays a very important role because it gives a signal to the private sector. How is the government viewing infrastructure? Because, mind you, during the pandemic, it was the duty of the government to revive growth in the economy. And the government of India has done this by increasing the capital expenditure. And since then, the government every year has been allocating more and more funds, right, under its own budget to allocate and develop infrastructure. And not to forget, more allocation to the states under the initiative of SASCI, under which 50-year interest-free loans are given to the states. So, continuing the same trend, the government of India has announced public capital expenditure will be increased to 12.2 lakh crore rupees, not a small amount, 12.2 lakh crore rupees. And finally, customs duties. We expected a huge number of reforms in the context of customs duties, and that was indicated by the finance minister as well in the pre-budget discussions, etc. Continuing with the same, the finance minister has made certain changes to the way customs duties are implemented. The documentation is basically, submitted, how the computation is done, and how much customs duties are imposed, by the way. Because, mind you, very often in the context of customs duties, there's a criticism. What is the criticism? Customs duties are hurting manufacturing in India. Customs duties are basically hurting the export potential in India. Customs duties are leading to inverted duty structure. And customs duties, right, essentially are not making easier to conduct business in India. It is making much more difficult to conduct business in India. So that's a precise reason. Under the customs duty regime, some amount of reforms have been announced by the government. For you, what is notable in this? For example, some of the drugs which are used by the cancer patients, now these have been brought under exemption. The nuclear power imports. The government of India is now focused on promotion of nuclear energy. The nuclear power imports, whatever imports you are going to do, irrespective of the size of the nuclear, right, let's say installation that you're doing, that will be exempted. Exempted. The continuation of exemption will take place irrespective of the size of the nuclear facility that you're developing. In addition to this, if you are importing something for personal usage, the government also has announced if you are importing something for personal usage, then the customs duties on that would also be reduced. Right? So these kind of announcements. In addition to this, compliance measures will be made much more easier. Minimum intervention by the government officials, etc. These are some of the announcements in the context of customs duties. So these are the most important announcements which have been done by the finance minister in the recently just now presented union budget for the year 26 and 27. But is it sufficient? Listen to me carefully. What now I've provided is basically an entry, right? Basically a introduction to lot of the announcements in the budget. We will have a detailed discussion on the budget itself. That is most important. We'll take all these, right? Let's say announcements are done in agriculture, for exports, in the fiscal developments, right? Or in the promotion of infrastructure, etc. All these announcements, one by one, we will take and have a detailed discussion, comprehensive analysis of the union budget announcement done just now. But this will be live today at 6 p.m. Do not miss out this particular video. It will be conducted live today at 6 p.m. in the same Unacademy IAS English YouTube channel. See you all today at 6 p.m.